Hello everyone and welcome to the High Tide Foundation's Coding Week interview. Today we're with a very special company that we're interviewing for the first time. This is Double 11 Game Studio. I'm here today with Kevin and Matt from Double 11. Hi both.
Hey.
Hello.
So we'll start with Kevin. So could you tell us a bit about who you are and what you do at Double 11?
So my name's Kevin Mann and I'm a producer at Double 11. So what that means basically is I go through the day-to-day management and facilitate the processes in building the game and creating it, look into different elements of communication from between the different departments on the game through to external people, sharing progress and trying to kind of visually indicate where we are with the game. And then from there, working with senior management on setting budgets and project planning, decision making about the game, that type of thing, and a bit of prototyping and UI work.
So sort of that high level organising stuff between departments and things then.
Yeah, so in general software development, you would probably call it like a project manager or product manager role with some extra communication elements put into it.
All right, so Matt, introduce yourself.
Hello, my name's Matt Phillips. I'm lead programmer on the Rust project at Double 11. My day-to-day tasks are mostly anything from low-level engine programming to high-level gameplay programming. And as a lead, I now organize others, help them out with their tasks, and make high-level engineering decisions at the company.
All right. So Kevin, could you give us a bit of a run through of what the company is and the history it's gone through to get to where it is today and some of the projects you've worked on too?
Yeah, for sure. So Double 11 are one of the UK key providers of development and publishing services for the games industry. So what that means is we provide full service visual and development solutions for different companies. So we do things from initial concept designs right through to the production, development, publishing, and then the post-release of games as well, and supporting that too. So we kind of cover a wide remit of the development process. And the way that the company works is we tend to take on and look out for games that we believe we could do a great job in making. We've got a very good and talented team who are very great at very specific things, so we know which ones that we would excel at. And the founders of the company are Lee Hutchinson and Matt Shepka, both ex-Rockstar developers. And what they wanted to do was create a studio that's about making games but also having like a great quality of life too, so mixing that between the two where people can have a good time outside of work as well as inside, and that comes across in everything we do in the way the company's being developing.
So like work-life culture kind of environment. A real good
mix of that, from the quality of the office that we see and how nice it is to work there to the way they support you outside of work with out of work clubs and activities and support around your home life too, which is really great. And the company's grown massively recently, so we're up to around 120 people now, and we've got the headquarters here in Middlesbrough and a recently opened office in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia.
All right.
And in terms of what we've worked on in the past, the things we're probably best known for is our development and publishing work on Goat Simulator, Prison Architect, and the co-development partner with Microsoft on Crackdown 3. We also now, as Matt said, are doing the console edition of Rust. But I think the thing that the company is most proud of, alongside those games, and obviously Minecraft Dungeons, which is our most exciting title, I think, at the moment, at least in terms of recognizability. But the company's probably most proud of the fact that we've been awarded the best place to work from Games Industry.biz 2 years in a row, and it's really shows in the way that the management approach the company and what it's like to work here, that's such an important award for us.
Yeah, there's some great titles in there you've worked on, definitely. Like I personally, I love Prison Architect all the time. Do you also do Pixel Junk as well? I've played that a few times. That's a good title.
Yeah, we did some of the Pixel Junk games too, which is that was slightly before I joined, so I wasn't involved in
that was
those.
the earlier stuff, wasn't it? So, Matt, could you give us a bit of a walkthrough of how you got to the role you're in now? Did you always see yourself getting into this kind of industry, or was it kind of a step-by-step process?
Bit of both. I started programming from very early years on the Commodore 64, back when computers came with instruction manuals showing you how to program. So I used to whip through all the instructions in the manual to figure out how to program BASIC and things like that. I didn't really take it seriously as a career until Half-Life came out in the late 90s. Half-Life came with level editing tools on the disk, so I had a quick introduction to how levels were created and scripted in Half-Life. And that's when I started taking it seriously as a career, and then I planned my college courses and university degree around that. So I studied computer and video games development at University of Salford, graduated around 2009. From there I worked at TT Games on around 13 Lego games, I think, in my 4 or 5 year career there, as well as one movie, because we used some of the game technology to render a film. So we worked on the straight to DVD Lego Batman movie, not that Lego Batman movie. From there on, I went to Crytek in Nottingham in the UK, and we worked on Homefront: The Revolution there, as well as a small project I'm quite proud of, which was a port of Time Splitters 2 to PS4 and Xbox One, which was embedded in the game. Which were quite cool. After that, I ran my own Kickstarter to make a brand new game for the Sega Mega Drive, and then founded my own indie studio off the back of that. So for a while, I did brand new games for retro consoles before joining Double 11, and that's where I am now.
Yeah, that's some great projects you've worked on then. Very diverse things as well, it seems like, and a lot of different background experience. So, Kevin, could you give us a bit of the same kind of walkthrough of, was yours any similar to that, or was it some kind of completely different path?
It's a completely different path, to be honest. Embarrassingly, I still thought I was going to be a professional footballer by the time I was 18, 19, and even when I was still signing up to go to university. But my other passion was around video games, but computers in general, and I ended up doing a computer science degree, which was purely code-driven. But I did a placement year, and in my year in placement, I realized that I didn't really enjoy doing that 100% of the time. So when I got back, I switched my degree to one that involved more like UI design, product design elements. And that led to a job doing 3D architectural mockups, which I did for about 6 months before I left to create my own company, which was like iTunes, but for comic books. And that company, I went through the Teesside University Graduates for Business scheme, through the Digital City courses, before hiring a guy that I would consider the co-founder of the company. And then together we got into a program called Techstars out in Boulder, Colorado in the US. So that company went on to raise about $6 million, and it had offices in Boulder, offices in Middlesbrough. We had a sales department in LA, and we bought a PR company called iFanboy out in New York. So the company grew to a really big size, and it was really exciting building on all the foundations I had from the Teesside area and what opportunities I had at that time.
I hear a lot of entrepreneurs and things from the Teesside area always like having those roots. I think it's quite a Teesside thing to like keep those roots in and build from that kind of stage.
Yeah, and having access to all the different universities really helped as well as that to get really great talent come in. And we built the company up that way. So I ended up leaving that for a number of different reasons, just ahead of it being purchased by a company called Blurb. And then I started my second company, which again was in Teesside, co-founded it. It was called Audacious, and we raised about £750,000 from local investors. And that grew to about 16 people over 4 years. And it looked like we were going to get bought by an American company at one stage, but the deal didn't go through. And we kind of ran out in terms of the time that we had to put funding together to continue. So we give as much money as we could back to investors and made sure that we had time and runway for people to find jobs. And then I went on to a local firm called Animation, who you may know, a few others may know, involved in the web development, VR and AR experiences that they do. And then I joined Double 11 a little over a year ago, so I kind of missed out all of the games industry bit until a year ago. And now I'm in somewhere that I really love. So.
Yeah, because I bring together all that management experience into Double 11's kind of where that came in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of people who have that same kind of journey. They're not in that same industry they've gone through, but they've taken all those skills together, and it's very important that you can realize, even though you're not in that industry, you can acquire skills from them and bring them into new jobs as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So Matt, could you give us a bit of a run through of what your day-to-day is at Double 11 now, and what you kind of do when you get into the office, or not get into the office now, but when you're at home working things?
Yeah, sure. Coffee, email, coffee, another coffee. At the moment, since I've just jumped onto a lead role on a project, it's mostly meetings for me in the morning, trying to figure out everybody's tasks and what they're doing for the day. Lots of documentation work at the moment, so I'm doing things like writing the company's coding standards, schedules, things like that. All sorts of things about our processes, code review, things like that. Once this settles down a bit, because it's the initial stage of working through our new processes. Once it settles down, I will be back to programming. So my day will look more like looking at my task list, picking out today's bugs to solve, things like that. My preference is low-level engine work, so I would mostly be working on things like optimization, improving low-level tools and processes, things like that. Yeah, with a lot of coffee in between.
So is it all working from home now as well, rather than the office, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I'm at home permanently, so even when people start going back, I'll still be at home. I will be popping into the office now and again to keep an eye on things, being a lead now. But yeah, generally everything I do is from home.
Yeah, I think it's good. In program was one of the first kind of industries to get into that working from home and remote working field. I think a lot of industries are obviously switching to that now with everything that's gone on, but I think the program environment is quite well made for that working from home aspect too.
Yeah.
So Kevin, could you talk us through the same again in your style? So what do you do day to day in the office, and what your workflow is?
Yeah, so in the role as producer, half of my job, or a big part of it, is making sure that everybody has what they need to be able to do their job as best that they can. So that whether that involves in information for the tasks, what task order they should be doing, and the process that should be run right through to things like making sure we have the right software, or that we're using the right platforms going forward as well. But a big part of it is, in terms of project management, is things like creating sprints, so chunks of work that people work through over a 2-week period, where we can track the progress to see how far along those tasks we are, so we know if we're going to be completed on time, or if we need to bring in extra resources, and how we manage that.
So is that how you design all your tasks, in like 2-week sprints then, and then review each time?
When I first started Double 11, we had a longer sprint period depending on who is the project management. So one of the great things about working here is, as a producer, you get some autonomy over the way that the project you're working on actually progresses. So the tools that we use and the methodology that best suits the game. So for some other games, a longer period might be best. I prefer a shorter period due to my experience in the past, and how well we can quickly kind of cycle through things. One of the unique elements of video game development is working with the QA department to find and discover bugs, and bringing that into the task list as people are going, and kind of getting a balance between that. So there's a lot of reporting involved in it, a lot of analysing where the game actually is, and what we need to get it to the next steps and the next milestones. And then on top of that, like I said earlier, it's working with senior management on terms of like budget setting, project planning, and more recently looking at different tools in terms of how we can get like quality metrics and performance metrics of the game out of it too. So I do get to do a little bit of hands-on coding and design now, which is also nice because it blends into my background a bit as well.
So back to Matt now. What would you recommend to someone who's in secondary school or in college and they want to get into this kind of role of being a programmer or games developer? What would be your recommendation to them?
Yeah, sure. Nothing beats practice, to be honest. Just keep making games. Make games with as many different types of technologies you can get your hands on. Make games of different types. Join teams, make games with others. Nothing beats that kind of experience. You can have all the educational programs in the world. Those are all just stepping stones to getting practice in, really. So just make games is the only real advice I could give anybody.
What kind of tools would you recommend? So is it things like Python and Pygame or like Unreal Engine, those kind of platforms?
Yeah, certainly all those. The two popular at the moment are Unity and Unreal, so the C# and C++ and Blueprint technologies. Pygame and Python, yeah, certainly good tools to use. We use a bit of Python at the company for things like build scripts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We don't do any games programming itself in Python, but all those skills are transferable. If you've made a game with Python, you could move over to something like C# and get comfortable with Unity after that.
Yeah, no, the general language that's taught in schools right now is Python, and a lot of the students that we watching like generally focus on Python. So I think it's good to know those skills can transfer as well.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, all those skills are transferable. We've seen a lot of Scratch at the moment. People using Scratch as a drag and drop tool for games development. That's a nice introduction to something like Blueprint and Unreal. Similar ways of thinking, not necessarily the same languages, but similar thinking patterns involved in writing games like that. We've seen all sorts of different technologies pop up quite recently. It all works as long as you can make a game with it. Job's a good one.
Yeah, great advice. So Kevin, have you got any kind of advice you'd give to anyone in that age range to get into your kind of role?
Yeah, I guess it's similar to, I guess to start with it, just to jump on what Matt was saying, I think one of the most exciting things that I've seen since when I first started out was just how low the barrier to entry for development and prototyping is nowadays. So when I first started, we kind of had to build a lot of concepts on paper and, well, not paper, but in Photoshop and show static. But now with access to tools like Unity and Unreal being free, and communities that come around game development engines like Pick2Eight, where you can actually see and remix code of other developers, there's kind of no excuse of not being able to kind of get hold and get building something that people can get their hands on really quickly. And likewise, outside of games, there's been innovations like Google Firebase for developing apps and web-based prototypes very quickly and free. And then from a design point of view, like Adobe XD is great for doing things that are code-free prototyping and getting a look and a feel of it. And probably the most exciting development has been the kind of online help and support that you can get from things like YouTubes and blogs. Even places like Dribble and Product Hunt, where you can really learn from a lot of other products and games that are out there and start to build and experiment as much as you can. And a bit like Matt was saying, like being part of a team, there's so many different game jams and things out that you can jump on and get to know people in the industry. It's a really good place to start.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think within this industry you need like a university degree, or do you think it's more that practical side of if you can go into a company and you show you have these projects that you've worked on, you have the evidence for that, would that be enough, or do you think the qualification side is still needed?
Matt, do you mind?
Yeah, sure. It depends on the role you're going for. For programmers, I think we use university degrees as some sort of initial barrier for entry. But we would certainly be open to going portfolio based only. If something really impresses us, if somebody's written something that catches our attention, we would certainly invite them in for interview at least. It's a difficult one because all of our applications go through HR departments who use these things as filters initially, so we don't usually get to see a candidate until they've already been through that process. But yeah, I've certainly seen candidates who have not got university degrees certainly can show the skills necessary.
Yeah, so the university degree is still kind of a barrier, but it is possible without it.
It is, yeah. I'm not high enough to make those kind of decisions, but I would certainly be open to seeing what people can do outside of university. Another thing I think with university is it's not just the educational aspect. I mean, there's other experiences there. Working with teams is another one that you probably might not get outside of university. Things like that. There's a lot of discipline involved.
Yeah, I think the workflows
like
as
that.
well, like agile work environments and your different ways of programming.
Yeah, certainly. So
as well.
yeah, so some skills outside of programming itself you might learn from university as well. So yeah,
definitely. So what are Double 11 looking for right now in terms of staff, or what you're planning to do in the future? So you talk about the office. You talk about the new office that you've opened. So what other than that,
we're always looking for programmers. Always have been, always will be looking for programmers. So
yeah.
Do you hire a lot like around Teesside? Is it mainly around Teesside, or is it further than that?
Yeah, we do. We hire within Teesside, and we also brought people from kind of all over the world over to Teesside as well as the remote team that we've got, like Matt and a couple of other people. The vast majority actually work in the UK office here in Middlesbrough, and we help with the move. So we've got people from like everywhere from Japan to Dundee as examples, like coming to work from us. But yeah, we look local for sure. And one of the exciting things with Double 11 too is we have, as well as all of these roles that we're looking to fill in terms of programming and development roles, we're also looking for different things like build engineers or QA leads, and we've even got the still artist jobs available. And while at the moment we're looking for things that are quite experienced, we do still hire for a lot of like junior staff and bringing in new hires right from the start. So we've got a lot of really exciting things coming up. Quite a few of it is under NDA, but the project, the company are growing, which it's really exciting to be part of. And I think one of the things that kind of goes unnoticed in Double 11 until I actually joined it was just how great the progression is with inside the company. So people can come in junior and progress relatively quickly throughout. But we also take people into like QA roles where they're doing games testing, and members of that have gone on to do level design on Minecraft Dungeons, and right through to like development roles. A couple of people from QA have gone on to be production associates on the projects, and will eventually move into production roles. So there's like other ways that we're hiring as well.
So there's a lot of opportunity there, a lot of growth in the industry as well. Something to look out for. So the final question now, and this is always the hardest one. So could each of you give us one bit of career advice you'd give to your younger self? So I guess we'll start with Matt.
Oh, I don't know. That's a tricky one. Kev?
Yeah, this may sound really cheesy, but when I was out in when I was out in Texas and being in an American culture, it really opened my eyes up to a lot of things. And the main thing that I wish I knew when I was a lot younger was that you learn a lot more through the failures that you have rather than the success. And that failure shouldn't be seen as a negativity in society, and it shouldn't be anything that you personally should be discouraged by if you fail. So these type of things that we were talking about in terms of like projects and portfolio pieces, if you try to develop something that fails, you're going to learn way more in that than you would have done just being part of a small team or doing something that's relatively safe. So I think that's probably what I would say to myself is like, don't worry too much about looking what society might think of as foolish, because you learn so much through that that's invaluable to other companies and to yourself going forward.
Definitely great bit of advice. Matt, have you had anything?
Yeah, sure. I guess for me, on my personal failures in the past, I would give myself the advice: make games, not engines. Previously, I was obsessed with creating the perfect technology on which to build my games. I would spend years and years writing game engines, tools, animation software, things like that, and never actually getting around to making the game. So if I was to go back, I would pick an off-the-shelf engine that would just make a lot of games off it rather than, you know, worry about the technology. It certainly taught me a lot. I don't regret the path that I took, but I could have made a lot more games, and they're a lot more fun to work
using the
on.
tools that are there.
Yeah. And yeah, use the right tool for the job, basically.
Yeah, great advice.
Jumping on what Matt said there, in general, in terms of technology as well, there's a book called The Mum Test, or The Mum Test, I think it's Americanized. But the idea behind that is that when you've got something that you're building yourself, you're not going to know if it's good or bad until you get it in the hands of somebody other than your mum. So the more that you can build and get out there quickly and early, the better to get feedback. It might not be the same necessarily within games, but definitely within like app and web development and product development, getting some hands-on and getting some feedback really early, even if it's like a spreadsheet prototype of what you're building. That initial information is so much more valuable than if you try and hold it until something perfect's built, because you might be building the entirely wrong thing.
Yeah, you need some testers, you need some feedback on things, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's been amazing. Thank you both of you for your time, for giving us some of your amazing knowledge you've got from this industry. So this interview will be uploaded to our Learning Hub as well as all of our social media sites. We'll give you links to Double 11's website as well, so you can check them out and check out everything to do with them and their great projects they're working on now. But yeah, thank you both for your time, and yeah, have a good one.
Thanks very much.
No worries. Thanks.